Good Thursday, everybody, and welcome into the Porch of Volquest.com baseball podcast. I am Eric Kane, and we are getting you set for the Knoxville Regional, getting going tomorrow night, Friday night, 6 o'clock Eastern time on ESPNU. Schedule change there, not ESPN+. Tennessee will be playing on ESPNU, televised tomorrow night against Miami of Ohio. Of course, Wake Forest, Cincinnati getting going earlier in the day on ESPN+ at 1 o'clock Friday afternoon. It's Knoxville Regional time. Tennessee, the number 14 overall seed, gaining a national seed so Tennessee could host a regional. That was not a given, certainly, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, but Tennessee won a couple games in Hoover and earned that right, so that's great to see. And, of course, matching up against the Fayetteville Regional with host Arkansas potentially for Super. So going to dive into that a little bit. Going to look at all three of these teams Tennessee will potentially face in the Knoxville Regional, kind of give the ins and outs of that. And we're going to talk with Joe Healy of D1 Baseball. He's going to join the show. Actually caught up with him after the selection show on Monday, so it's a couple of days old, the tape, if you will. But I played it on my Locked On Vols podcast, and certainly wanted to play it here on this show. A lot of good stuff on Tennessee from Joe Healy, D1 Baseball, and his thoughts on some of this the personnel here in the Knoxville Regional. We'll catch up with Charlie Taylor, former Tennessee catcher. He'll end the show here coming up in about 30 minutes or so. Get his thoughts on what Tennessee did in Hoover, all that and more right here on your Porch podcast. Presented by our friends over at Spivey King and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. TN Trial Lawyer, specialize in criminal defense, family law, personal injury. Spivey King and Spivey LLP.com, 423-245-4185 for a free consultation, 423-245-4185. And again, that website, Spivey King and Spivey LLP.com. Presenting sponsors of the show, third straight year, couldn't do without them, and I really, really do appreciate their partnership. Okay, so Tennessee, postseason baseball at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. That's awesome, right? Tennessee has some pretty good odds to win this Knoxville Regional. Let's see here. Only 4 teams have better odds to win its regional than Tennessee. Tennessee's at minus 310 to win the Knoxville Regional. Arkansas is at minus 700. LSU's at minus 390. North Carolina is at minus 350. And then you have Georgia, who's tied with Tennessee at minus 310 to win the regional. Whenever the seedings came out, Tennessee went from number 3 to number 6, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, on terms of the best odds to win the national championship. Tennessee is at plus 1,200 behind Arkansas. Potential supers matchup there at plus 470. LSU plus 650. Vanderbilt, the number 1 overall seed, at plus 650. Texas at plus 900. And North Carolina at plus 1,000. So FanDuel giving Tennessee the 6th best odds to win the national championship, giving Tennessee the 4th best odds to win its regional. And so obviously Tennessee this time of the year, a team that's been there, done that. I know, new players, new team, very much a new team. I'm not trying to say it's the same team as last year, because I think we know that's not true. But so much talent and a program that is used to playing at this time of the year. So, I thought that was interesting in terms of the odds per FanDuel. We'll see what happens in that regard. But, looking at the Knoxville Regional, Wake Forest, we'll kind of start. I guess we'll start with Miami of Ohio, because that is who Tennessee, we know for a fact, is going to play, kicking things off Friday at 6 o'clock. 35-21 was the record for Miami of Ohio, the number 80 RPI team. Finished tied for first with Kent State in the MAC with a 23-7 record. Won the MAC tournament, and that's how it punched its tickets. Played one SEC team all year long. That was Kentucky in the midweek on April the 15th, losing 4-3. The guy that Tennessee's going to see on the mound, almost certainly, I would imagine, because if you're Miami of Ohio, why wouldn't you throw this guy? Cooper Katsky. Again, in baseball, it's like basketball. One guy takes over, like he can control the game. You get one guy on the mound that can absolutely shove. I mean, that's Miami of Ohio's best effort to beat Tennessee, and that's going with an elite ace in Cooper Katsky, right? A sophomore redshirt, right-handed pitcher, 11-1, okay, in 15 starts, 2.66 ERA, team high 81 innings in a third. His whip is .98, 69 strikeouts, 26 walks. He started 9 times in 15 appearances, 2 complete games, 11 outings of 5 innings or longer, which is really, really good. Opposing hitters are hitting 186 against Katsky, and Tennessee, of course, is going to see the ace on Friday night. So, really, really good pitcher. Tony Vitello said earlier this week, like, it doesn't matter what level you're at, it doesn't matter what division, what conference you're at. You win 11 games. I mean, that is hard to do. So I could see them going from Cooper Katsky to Carson Byers. Carson Byers is their best arm out of the bullpen. Lefty, 2.52 ERA, team high 20 appearances, 64 innings and a third. So he's also kind of a stretch long relief guy. So maybe they could hold him to game 2 or game 3 to give them a lot of innings, but he is without a doubt their best option out of the bullpen, very similar to that of Nate Snead. But if I'm Miami of Ohio, I'm going all in trying to win this game against Tennessee, and I'm going with your ace, and then I'm going with your best bullpen arm. You're the 4 seed. You're not supposed to win this regional at all. So that's your best chance. If you knock off Tennessee, boy, you are sitting in the driver's seat for sure. So I would go, if I was Miami of Ohio, Katsky to lefty Carson Byers. After Carson Byers, not a whole lot of options in the bullpen. The ERAs are inflated. You got 4 guys who have like 23 appearances or more, 5.25 ERA, 7.04 ERA, 4.55 ERA, 11.20 ERA. So not very good. Again, Miami of Ohio, veteran-led. They're not going to play baseball that's going to get them beat. They're pretty clean in the field, okay? Out of the 4 teams in this region, they're second to Cincinnati in fielding percentage. So they're not gonna get themselves beat, but overall, it's a team that, is not gonna get its beat. It's veteran led, and I don't have the offense listed here. I apologize. Let me go find the offense so I can give you a little look at some of the offensive personnel for Miami of Ohio. Here we go. Okay, Evan Applewick, pretty good player. Leads the team in home runs with 19, RBI 71, slugging percentage, OPS. He's 4th in batting average at 319. It's not bad. You've got Dominic Krupskinski, 361. Anthony Zarlingo, 346. Dylan Baker, 336. Again, this team hits very well. Pretty good offensive team. Zarlingo also leads the team with 74 hits. Dylan leads the team with 23 doubles. Ryan Novak leads the team with 5 triples. Pretty good offensive team. Again, you look at the stats, team hits for a pretty good average, really, really good average. And, it's a team that's going to give Tennessee a hard fought game on Friday night. At least that's the plan if you're Miami of Ohio. But nonetheless, that is who Tennessee is going to square off against on Friday night. And then we're going to move to Saturday. If Tennessee wins, it'll be the night game. If Tennessee loses, it'll be the day game on Saturday. But it's going to be between one of the 2 teams in Wake Forest, the 2 seed, or Cincinnati, the 3 seed. Let's go to Wake Forest first, okay? Wake Forest finished 8th in the ACC, 16-14 is the record. They were 1 and done in the ACC tournaments. This is a team that is not good fielding. It's got the worst fielding percentage of any team in this region, worse than Tennessee, dead last in the ACC in that regard. Pretty good offensively, 4th in the ACC with a 308 batting average. Pitching, they've got an ace, and then kind of some question marks behind them. Let's start with the offense here for Wake Forest. Cade Lewis, 3rd baseman, kind of the straw that stirs that drink. Leads the team with nearly a 400 batting average, 392. Leads the team with OPS, slugging percentage, hits, doubles, total bases. Has 11 home runs. That's 3rd. There's 5 Wake players that have 10 or more home runs on the season. 3rd with RBI, 57, and he's one of 3 Demon Deacons that have 57 or more RBI on the season. So again, a very good offensive team. Jack Winay leads the team in home runs with 14, RBI 59. 5 players boast an average north of 300. MLB draft prospect Maurice Houston leads the team with 19 stolen bases, okay? And then center fielder Jabbar Williams has 13 stolen bases. So not a very aggressive team, but a couple of guys that can certainly run, and everybody knows how to read a scouting report, so potentially that's something Tennessee's got to be mindful of. I would assume that Wake Forest is going to throw their ace, Blake Morningstar, on Friday. 6-1 in 13 starts, 14 appearances, 2.71 ERA, 73 innings on the mound. So if Morningstar pitches on Friday, if there's the potential of Tennessee and Wake Forest on Saturday, could it be Dallas? Could it be Matthew Dallas? Former Tennessee starting pitcher, freshman last year, transferred out, went to Wake Forest, and he finished the year as the number 2 weekend starter, albeit it was only for like a 2 or 3 game stretch. He was, got a lot of midweeks. 13 starts this year. He went 4-1. 5.09 is the ERA, 53 innings, 59 strikeouts, 28 walks. Again, nothing stellar, but Matthew Dallas potentially could be on the mound as the starting pitcher in the home ballpark where he started his college career against his former team. That could be an interesting storyline as well. Righty Logan Lunsford's also an option. He's had 14 starts on the year. Chris Lavonis is also a starting option, but his ERA is not too good. He's got 10 starts on the year. The bullpen, led by a righty and Luke Schmolke, 23 appearances, 3.89 ERA. Hayden LaFuse, a lefty, 3.98 ERA. He's got a team-high 25 appearances. Righties Griffin Green, 2.65 ERA, and Josh Gunther, 3.16 ERA, have combined for 48 appearances out of the bullpen. So a pretty good bullpen. Pretty good offense. Starting pitcher minus their ace, very much questionable. And then fielding is a way that Wake Forest can get itself beat as well. So you look at Wake Forest, and that's obviously a strong 2. We'll see if Tennessee squares off against Wake Forest in the Knoxville Regional. And then finally, let's go to Cincinnati. Griffin Merritt dilemma, right? Played 4 years at Cincinnati, finished his career at Tennessee. I caught up with Griffin Merritt. Go check out that article over at Volquest.com. 32-24 is the record. 34th ranked in the RPI. Finished 16-14 in the Big 12. That was good enough for 8th. 21st strength of schedule. They won a game in the Big 12 tournament and then lost to 1 seed West Virginia. They won series over Kansas State, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Arizona State, Texas Tech, and UCF, and dropped series against TCU, West Virginia, Arizona, and BYU. We'll start with the pitching staff. Nathan Taylor and Kellen O'Connor kind of lead that roster, kind of lead that staff. So, if Tennessee sees Cincinnati on Saturday, they're going to have a pretty good starting pitcher regardless of which way they want to go. They combined to start 25 of 30 appearances on the year. Taylor 6-2, 3.67 ERA. O'Connor 3-2, 4.68 ERA, 65 innings. Again, nice little 1-2 punch at the top. So if Cincinnati sees Tennessee on Saturday, they're going to have a pretty good starting pitcher. You look at the bullpen, or I guess Carson Marsh is also a starting option. Hudson Johnson, Brandon Schuler, 22 appearances out of the bullpen combined, but those ERAs, one is over 5, one is nearing 5. Michael Conte, 2.29 ERA. He's been the most effective reliever, 17 appearances, 19 innings and 2/3, but he's not been stretched out. So the bullpen, very shaky, but they do have a pretty good one in the righty that I just mentioned. Offensively, pretty good ball club. Redshirt third baseman Carrington Cross, who was with Griffin Merritt, played with him in 2022. He leads the team with a batting average, slugging percentage, hits, runs, second in home runs with 12, second in RBI. Got a couple other guys. Jack Natili, the catcher, leads the way with a 340 average. Also has driven in 50 runs. Cal Sefcik, 295 average, has driven in 41 runs as well. It's an aggressive base running team, though, and here's the storyline. Tied for 18th in the country with 128 stolen bases. Cincinnati's only been caught stealing 14 times. All year long, 14 times. So obviously, that's something to pay attention to. 5 players have 10 or more stolen bases. Leadoff man Lyndon Vidoric has swiped an incredible 37 bases on 38 attempts. Woo! He wasn't in the lineup the last couple of games, though. I need to check on that. Shortstop Charlie Niehaus has taken 19 of 21 stolen bases. Carrington Cross has recorded 15 stolen bases. Christian Mitchell, the outfielder, has recorded 11. Derek Pitts has stolen 10. Second baseman Landon Brooks has added 9 stolen bases. So a very aggressive base running team. So if there's the potential of a Marcus Phillips on Saturday against Cincinnati, something noteworthy to pay attention to, for sure. Tony Vitello said earlier in the week that they will probably stick with Liam Doyle on Friday, Marcus Phillips on Saturday, and then we'll see what happens on Sunday, and then hopefully you don't get to Monday for sure. But that's kind of been the thought process with Tony Vitello. At least that's what he said earlier this week. All right, I'm going to get out of the way here. We got loads of content to get into. We'll go with Joe Healy, conversation I had with him, D1 Baseball, on Monday after the selection show. He's going to give his thoughts on the Knoxville Regional, give you a more in-depth breakdown than I could give you, and then we'll get into Charlie Taylor coming up next on the show as well here as we continue on the Porch, a Volquest.com baseball podcast presented by our friends over at Spivey King and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. TN Trial Lawyers, examples of which could be, criminal offense, family law, personal injuries, DUI, custody, alimony, personal wrecks. 80 years of combined experience. Spivey King and Spivey LLP provides representation throughout state and federal courts in Northeast Tennessee. The firm has a vast amount of trial experience. Practice has been in place for 43 years. This specific partnership since 2012, while also having partners who are energized for today's modern legal demands. Practicing primarily in Northeast Tennessee, the Tri-Cities of Sullivan County, as well as Hawkins County, Washington County, and surrounding areas, the firm has multiple awards and have attorneys who are rated by super lawyers in the Mid-South with real trial experience. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, need help with a divorce, help with custody of your children, or you've been accused of a crime, Spivey King and Spivey LLP is here to help you. Go see him in person today at 142 Cherokee Street, Kingsport, Tennessee. Give this phone number a dial for a free consultation, 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185, or check them out online at Spivey King and Spivey LLP. Spivey King and Spivey LLP, you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. TN Trial Lawyers. Hey, I want to welcome on to the show Joe Healy from D1 Baseball. Does a fantastic job covering all of college baseball. And of course, college baseball is the news, is the story right now. The regional field has been set. The path to Omaha was revealed on Monday around noon, and Tennessee is going to host a regional, and we'll play host to Wake Forest, Cincinnati, and Miami of Ohio. More on that specific region here in a moment. But Joe, first and foremost, your thoughts on Tennessee. You were in Hoover this past week, and no surprise, Tennessee was very much limping into the conference tournament. Losers of 5 straight, 6 of their past 7, but kind of reminded everybody, hey, season high 20 hits against Alabama on Wednesday, outlasted the top seed Texas in 12 innings on Thursday. Still a lot of talent, still a whole lot to work with that team, and I think Tennessee obviously helped itself out tremendously in Hoover.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they were kind of on the hosting bubble going into the week and left no doubt by the time they left. That win against Texas obviously was so huge for that. They reminded people that, look, when this is clicking, they're as good as anybody in the country. My colleague Mike Rooney, and I don't know that I disagree with him, says that Tennessee is still the most talented roster in the country as far as he's concerned. And again, I don't know that I disagree. But I think what we've learned, well, 2 things. One is that so much of what Tennessee dealt with late in the regular season was just a symptom of this was a particularly strong SEC year. Everybody took lumps. Nobody got out of the league unscathed. Texas played poorly late. LSU had a stretch where they were pretty up and down. Arkansas had a couple of weeks where we started to doubt them a little bit. So everybody had that going on to some degree. It just so happened that Tennessee's was all kind of lumped together. But at the same time, I think we've also learned enough to know that this team is not infallible in the way that some of the others have been, right? Like this team does have some foundational issues that I think we took for granted that they didn't have when, not just with the national title team, but some of the great teams they've had in the recent past. There are the issues with base running. There are some defensive issues. The lineup is not quite as scary. They're still capable of winning a national title. I believe that down to my core. It's just a little more inconsistent. And that's going to happen when you lost everything they lost off the national title team. Let's not forget that. So, was not surprised they played well. Minus, they looked a little flat in the game against Vanderbilt. That sometimes happens in the conference tournament. But outside of that, they looked great and reminded everybody of hey, maybe it hasn't been the regular season we would have wanted, but we're still a very dangerous team that could go back to back. That's still on the table.
Yeah, so let's go there from a broader approach real quick. Not calling another trip to Omaha, not calling a national championship, but why can this team do just that? Why can this team go back to Omaha for, it would be the 4th time in the last 6 years? Why can this team maybe go back to back? What do you like about the nucleus of this team, the makeup of this team that gives confidence in the Vols, now as the calendar is just about to flip to June?
Yeah, I still think that even though they lost a lot of regulars off of last year's team, I still like that the core is still made up of guys who have been in this program. Now, in some cases, that's Dean Curley, who's been in the program for all of 1 year. I get that. But still, that's not a newcomer. And I think that's helped make up for the fact that, you brought in a lot of older guys, and that's hard. Even well-meaning newly arrived players who are seniors, kind of like, or juniors or seniors, kind of like Keelan, Fisher, and Doyle, it can just take some time to kind of find your footing in a new program. So I think having the carryover from that team has been huge. And look, they have some cheat codes. Now, let's assume that Doyle is healthy. Obviously, he's been dealing with the blister deal for a long time, but let's assume he's healthy. That's a little bit of a cheat code, right? He's going to give you a chance to win every time he's on the mound. As long as Marcus Phillips is holding runners effectively, which he's done a better job of late, he's about as good as any number two you're going to face. The bullpen is deep. We've seen that with the way that some of Tennessee's games this season have really stretched out, because once Frank and Tony start going to the bullpen, it's just this like rotating cycle of guys they can use. You still like that, and offensively they can beat you in a lot of ways. This is not a team that has to win one specific way offensively, and that's just your listeners know this because Tennessee's been in Omaha a number of times of late. Like, you can't just swing from your heels and expect to win ball games in Omaha. You're going to have to make some things happen on the bases. You're going to have to play defense. You're going to have to, get something spectacular from some people, and they're capable of all of that stuff.
Joe, you look specifically at this Knoxville Regional. Again, the 2-seed Wake Forest, 3-seed Cincinnati, 4-seed Miami of Ohio. Again, at the time of this recording, early in the week, so still doing some research on this. But Cincinnati runs. Talk about those teams that could maybe give Tennessee some issues on the base path. Cincinnati is 100% that team. Miami of Ohio won the MAC. Wake Forest was a host team last year. Really, really good team last year. Still a winning record in ACC play. Picking up the number 2 seed here, coming to Knoxville. What do you like about this region, and what do you like about the individual matchups, Tennessee against these teams?
Yeah, so I think you hit on a little bit. Maybe this is where what you're thinking, and I'd be curious for your take too. Like, I think Cincinnati's actually the most dangerous team in this regional for Tennessee, for a couple of reasons. One is, I think Wake Forest is a very familiar type of team, and I don't just say that because they played in Omaha a couple of years ago. I mean it more just like where they were both in Omaha a couple of years. I just mean more like it's big time velocity on the mound. Sometimes the command is not 100% there. It's athleticism all over the field. It's physicality in the lineup. They play in a ballpark very similar to Lindsey Nelson, very offense forward. So it's just going to be now. It's not to say it's going to be easy to beat Wake Forest, but it's just very familiar. That's going to not be anything different than what they're used to seeing. Cincinnati's a different deal, though. That roster, and I say this actually as a compliment, that roster's not that raw talent. In terms of raw talent, not that talented. Not a ton of pros or guys who are just locks to be high draft picks. They've got a lot of really old college players. I actually saw them in the fall, so I have a decent feel for their roster, and it's just a bunch of guys who have ended up there through transfer or have been in the program a long time. A lot of their older guys have predated Jordan Bischel, the head coach, being there, and they're going to put the ball in play. They're going to run. They're more of a doubles team than a home run team, but they do have strength, and their ballpark can play big. So I do wonder if they're going to run into some baseballs this weekend that wouldn't have got out of their place, that will get out of Lindsey Nelson, especially with being this time of year. I don't love Cincinnati on the mound, to be honest, but I think they can win some slugfests, and so that I think that makes them dangerous. And given that they can really run, that complicates things. Two stars there. Carrington Cross is like a 5th or 6th year guy who takes a bunch of walks, hit home runs. Landon Vidoric is probably their best prospect. He's got pop. He can run. He's a good outfielder. He was pretty raw when he got to Cincinnati, but with the season he put together, has really kind of come into his own. And then with Wake, the best thing I think for Tennessee in this regional is that Wake is going to have to use Blake Morningstar against Cincinnati. Their rotation drops off pretty precipitously after that. And oh, by the way, that means it could be a Tennessee versus Matthew Dallas matchup in the winners bracket game if it goes that way, which I know Tennessee fans will be particularly interested in.
Well, there's a lot of storylines in this regard. So you got Griffin Merritt, who's been out of the program for 2 years, but he transferred to Tennessee from Cincinnati, was a part of that 23 Omaha team. So there's that. You got Matthew Dallas, who was here last year, and now he's pitching for Wake Forest. You have Josh Reynolds, who helps Frank Anderson out in the bullpen. He's a staffer. He came from Cincinnati, was the pitching coach for Cincinnati a season ago. There's quite a few different storylines in that regard. Miami of Ohio. So, two-part question. Tell me a little bit about the MAC champions, because we don't know anything, and I'm sure you know more than I do this early in the week. But also, if you were Frank Anderson and Tony Vitello, would you maybe think about pitching Marcus Phillips on Friday to avoid the potential of base runners Cincinnati matchup on Saturday and go with Dole on Saturday?
Yeah, I think I would, because I think for what Phillips provides, I think that's still a good matchup against Miami, Ohio, because they're not going to have seen the type of stuff that he has. So I do think that's still a good matchup from that standpoint, and it does mitigate the worries about Cincinnati just running totally wild over Marcus Phillips. We'll see though. I mean, you know this better than I do. Like Tony does tend to be a traditionalist in terms of like how he puts things together. So I would actually be a little surprised if they shift the rotation, but we'll see. It's certainly on the table. Good program, Miami, Ohio. They've kind of been blocked in the MAC. You know, it's kind of like Kent State, Central Michigan, Ball State has kind of, you know, just been the trio at the top of the league for a long time, but they've always been good. Their head coach was an assistant at Indiana State for a long time, and that program obviously has had a lot of success of late. So they do have some of the hallmarks of those teams, a lot of strikes, and they're going to play good defense. They are absolutely not going to beat themselves. You're going to have to beat them. They do have some pop in the lineup. That'll be interesting. That's usually not what the MAC provides. That's not really a power-heavy conference, but they have some. I would imagine Tennessee will see Cooper Katsky, who is a transfer from Indiana, who pitched for Miami, Ohio this year. The stuff is fine, but he's a real workhorse. He threw a complete game in the MAC tournament to get them to the title game. That's their best starting pitcher. But the best pitcher overall is actually probably a reliever, Carson Byers. He's kind of that. They use him similar to the way Tennessee uses Nate Snead, where it's like, hey, we need 4 innings from you, big dog. Like, go in there and finish this thing off. You know, they're not afraid to do that with him. So he's actually their best guy on the pitching staff. Look, it's a matchup where Tennessee is going to be the prohibitive favorite, but won't be a walkover. The program, this Miami, Ohio program is too proud for that. They're talented enough, I think, to hang around. So it's not going to – I mean, it might be, but I wouldn't guess this would be one where Tennessee puts up a 10 spot in the second and we're just kind of sleepwalking the rest of the way.
And you're right. Tennessee's, you know, under Tony Vitello, been pretty much a traditionalist in terms of, you know, how they go about it on the mound. But heading to Arkansas, which I'll transition to that here in just a second, he got to flip the rotation a little bit. Marcus Phillips on Friday, Liam Duell on Saturday. Or actually, I guess that was Thursday, Friday, keeping Duell on the same amount of reps because that blister. So I think it makes more sense to lead off with Marcus Phillips against the 4 seed, and that would kind of be staying on path a little bit. So interesting there. Say Tennessee wins this regional. Tennessee should win the regional, but it's college baseball and it's nuts, and especially this Tennessee team, you just never know which one you're going to get. Say Tennessee does win the regional, we'll match up with the winner of the Fayetteville Regional. That's Arkansas, Kansas, Creighton, North Dakota State. Never want to assume, but Arkansas will be the favorite there. Tennessee just played Arkansas at Arkansas 2 weeks ago. Hit the ball well. Pitching obviously wasn't what it needed to be. But what do you like about the potential of Tennessee and Arkansas round 2 supers with Omaha on the line?
I mean, it might be the most talented possible super that we could put together. You know, when you consider Arkansas just has this never-ending assembly line of guys throwing 100 miles an hour. You know, guys that don't even pitch that throw hard, right? So like the talent on display will be incredible. I mean, that's going to be an MLB scout's dream, that super regional. They're going to get a look at a lot of guys. So there's that. I mean, it's going to be a blockbuster. That'll be every one of those games will be on prime time on regular ESPN, probably, just given the talent on offer. I still think when Arkansas is playing its best, the best team in the country, the balance is just so good. When you have the pitching talent they have, and then the deep offense. I mean, yes, they have star power with Bahiva Aloy, the SEC Player of the Year, but they really are a lineup 1 through 9 that can hurt you. And they were disappointed, I think, not to get more games in Hoover. It was a quick exit for them, one and done, losing to Ole Miss. But and I wonder how that plays in, because it felt like as the season was ending, they were starting to hit their stride again. And I do wonder if the fact that they will have basically just played one game over the course of 12 days or what have you leading into the regional is not great for them. Now, they will have the regional to get going a little bit, and a matchup with North Dakota State is probably good for them, because that this team's just not very good. But I do wonder if they're going to be a little bit flatter than what they had been late in the year because of the way that they just made a quick exit from Hoover. But we'll see. Kansas also, by the way, if Arkansas can't get over this, they've lost in home regionals a couple times of late. If that becomes a thing, Kansas could take advantage. It's a very good team. It's a little reminiscent of Cincinnati in this regard, not necessarily in terms of the way they play, because they don't really run or anything like that, but a lot of JUCO guys, a lot of transfers. It's a very blue collar approach. They probably play as hard as any team I saw in person this season. Big ground ball team, which could be helpful in Lindsey Nelson if they get there, if they are able to generate some ground balls. So I think that could be a tricky super as well. I would still obviously like Tennessee there, but if that ends up being a Kansas win in that regional, that could be kind of tricky for the Vols as well.
Joe, as always, man, I appreciate you. I got one more question for you out the door, and I don't want to take anything away. I know you guys will probably have a story on this. I know you guys will podcast about this or anything, so I don't want you to give anything away. But if you could, seeing the way the regions lay out in the past, Omaha and all that, who do you like to? I mean, if you want to call a national champion right now, please do. If you have 8 teams in mind that you think make it to Omaha, just what do you think of the bracket? Who do you like? Who do you dislike? Who's got a tough draw?
Well, I've been saying Arkansas of late for the reasons I just gave you. When they're at their best, they've been better than anybody I've seen this season. But I don't like that lines up with Knoxville, right? Because there's just some part of me that thinks that there's still a switch that Tennessee could flip and be the best version of themselves at the right time of year. That wouldn't be shocking. So I don't love that. I will say, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and maybe it's just prisoner of the moment because they won the SEC tournament, but Vanderbilt is intriguing because, their bullpen is so deep. And the way their offense operates, everyone harps on, rightfully so, the lack of power. Well, they're hitting for more power as of late, but also, the way they beat Tennessee with 13 singles, that's kind of what you have to do in Omaha, is be able to hit the ball hard on a line and collect a bunch of hits. And look, they're going to see better, they'll see different pitching. They wouldn't have been able to do that against Phillips or Doyle, I'm sure. But the way they're playing, it's interesting. This is the best version of Vanderbilt I've seen in probably since the Rocker Lighter team in 21. Consider me intrigued, but I'm going to be stubborn. I'll still go with Arkansas just because that's been my pick for so long now, and I'm nothing if not stubborn. So we'll go there. But I for the purpose of your listeners, trust me when I tell you, I feel a lot less confident about that now that the brackets come out and they're across Knoxville. That's for sure.
Best time of the year. It is NCAA postseason baseball time. And Joe, I know you're going to be super busy over the next couple of weeks. I believe you're going to be covering the Auburn Regional. What else do you have coming up this week and this weekend for you and the guys over at D1 Baseball?
Yeah, we're going to preview every single regional. We're pretty thorough about those. We add our own information, but I know I'm personally going to be on the phone a decent bit with coaches and whatnot who have played some of these teams to get a little better insight. Mark and I will record a new episode of Highway to Hoover talking about regionals from an SEC perspective. I think as of right this minute, there's an episode up that I was not a part of, but that Mark and Aaron and Kendall recorded just their reactions to the field being released, and there'll be a whole bunch of other stuff on the site throughout the week. It's the busiest week of the year in terms of writing, probably. But it helps kill the time until the games come along. So, I don't hate it from that perspective. But yeah, I'll be in Auburn. Looking forward to it. My first time being in Plainsman Park since they've renovated it. So very much looking forward to that, and should be a pretty competitive regional. So that's really all you can ask for.
Yep, one of many competitive regionals on deck for this weekend. Joe Healy, appreciate it as always, man. Thanks so much.
See you, man. Always happy to do it.
Charlie Taylor joining us here on the porch, and it is that time of the year. Postseason is here, regional play. And before we get into the nuts and bolts in Tennessee versus Miami, Ohio, and the potential of Wake Forest and Cincinnati, and even the potential of going to Fayetteville potentially if they win that region and all that, let's dial it back a little bit. Let's go back to 2022. You and I discussed this. I think it was the first podcast we did together, but obviously a great memory for you when you got that spot start behind the plate. There's your redshirt freshman year, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Obviously, it was not planned that way, but kind of walk us through that experience for you, just in terms of that game, the day leading up to it, and all that.
Yeah, I mean that's just postseason baseball. I feel like the further you get into the year, the more weird stuff happens, the more injuries, the more, whatever it might be. So 1 through 25 on the bench got to be ready to play their part. But yeah, I think I blacked out most of that weekend, but it was a lot of nerves, not a lot of food because of those nerves, and then just, go up there and try and help your team win a series.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, we spoke on this, a while ago, but you said when you found out, you got to the park at like noon and you saw the lineup, or
Dickey, yeah.
Drew Gilbert or somebody saw the
Yeah.
lineup and was like, "Hey, you're playing," and
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh man!" And then you didn't eat anything the rest of the day.
No, not until after the game. I was pretty nervous.
So, what was the message to you with some of those older guys? Because I mean, obviously, you were the midweek guy then. I mean, you caught. I mean, you were in the lineup a little bit, but that wasn't your role. And obviously, kicking off postseason play, you started behind the plate that game, and then I want to say you DH or you did something that Saturday game, but that was a different role for you. What were some of the messages from the other guys on the team?
Yeah, no, I was behind the plate to start both of those games, and I mean the older guys were awesome, and I catch those guys all the time. They do
Yeah.
such a great job switching it up in scrimmages and preseason stuff, and then like you said, bullpens in the middle of the week. So I was more than prepared to do it, but it's just being on that stage. There's more people in the stands. There's more on the line. The games matter a little bit more, so to speak. So it's just getting comfortable with those kinds of things. But like you said, Gilbert specifically was awesome. Just reached out to me and said, "Hey, we don't. All we need you to do is just your job, and that's taking care of the pitching staff, and the rest of us are right behind you." So no, I'll remember that weekend forever.
When did you finally were you able to take a deep breath and say, okay, this is just baseball. Like I'm good. I got. Was it the national anthem? Was it the first pitch? Like when were you able to kind of calm down a little bit?
I don't remember exactly, but I do remember being sped up that first at bat, and I think I struck out on a ball that bounced 4 feet in front of the plate. But then the next at bat, I got the same breaking ball, this time a little more up in the zone, and hammered it pretty good. And I actually thought it was gone, but I think after that I settled in and was really just competing, playing baseball, and then behind the plate too. That's where I'm at my best and where I'm most comfortable. So I was good there pretty much the whole time.
I think you told me like that pretty much like made your baseball career. I mean, you went on and did so many other things after that. Don't get me wrong, but like if it ended after there, it was like okay, I'm good. Like was that big of a deal for you?
Yeah, my parents would have been cool going to heaven that weekend. They were good. But no, yeah, that was. I'm gonna look back on that in 50 years, and that's still gonna be something I'll cherish forever.
Then lo and behold, a year later, I guess less than a year later, you were in the opening day, lineup in Arizona and playing a bigger role for this team. So that was really really cool to see. This Tennessee baseball team playing much better. It's amazing what a couple of games can do. I mean, Tennessee limped into Hoover, losers of 5 straight, losers of 6 of their past 7 weekends. All that and more. Outside looking into hosting, you go down there, you beat Alabama. You go down there, you beat Texas. Now you're hosting, and it just feels like a completely different vibe right now, and that's good because these are going into the games that matter the most.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of people stepping up, you've got pitchers stepping up. Arvidsson with a huge weekend. The lineup looks really good, and that's what you need this time of year. It's not going to be perfect. It's not always going to be pretty, and you don't know each night who it's going to be. So there's a lot of guys that might not be in that starting lineup every game come postseason, but we're going to need them at some point. When you look back to games like going 14 innings or 15, I forget what it was against Clemson, or a crazy series down at Southern Miss. There's going to be instances where we're going to have to rely on our depth, and I think that's the strong suit of this team.
What I liked the most was like in recent weeks, a mistake would be like self imploding. Like there's one mistake and you can't recover, or one mistake leads to another mistake or whatever. Obviously, big time error in the 5th inning that allowed 4 earned runs to go across the scoreboard for Alabama in that game. Tennessee was able to rebound season high 20 hits. You score 15 runs. I mean that didn't phase you. And then against the top seeded Longhorns, you're down 4-0 in the 4th inning, and you turn around and you win in 12 innings, 7-5. Like my biggest takeaway of the many was this team handled it. And it's sure you can't ignore what happened against Vanderbilt. I recognize that. But as Hunter Ensley said post game, like, hey, today sucked, but we won 2 of 3, and that's what you got to do on the weekends. Like the way Tennessee handled adversity and fought through adversity in Hoover, one of my biggest takeaways. Because again, I'm not saying Tennessee didn't have any fight because that is inaccurate, but being able to take punches, throw punches, and find yourself in the win column, I thought that was big.
Yeah, that's huge, and that's really, if you're going to win a national championship, it's not this simple, but at the end of the day, it really is this simple. You got to win a series. You do it in a regional, and then you do it in a super regional. Now I know there's the regionals are a little quirky, but that's really what it is winning two out of three, putting together a winning weekend. And if you do that four times in a row, you're national champs. And again, it's not that simple, but it was good to see we this team can win in a lot of different ways. They can have lights out pitching from Liam Doyle like we've seen throughout the year, or they can also have a start where maybe the Longhorns get to them a little bit and then we fight back. We can overcome, a few miscues in the field. But that's the kind of resilience you want to see out of your team heading into June baseball.
So heading into June baseball, it's regionals, and again, it's as you mentioned, regionals kind of quirky a little bit. It's essentially four teams, double elimination. If you lose one, it's set up to where you don't want to lose one because if you lose one, especially early, boy, that is a steep hill you got to climb. What's the mindset? You go from playing every weekend, one team, three games. Then you go to Hoover, it's a little bit different. But now you're going into a weekend to where there's three other teams and you have three other scouting reports and you have all these different possibilities about who you could be facing in an individual matchup or, pitcher, hitter, whatever the case is. Does the mindset change anything? Anything different from a preparation standpoint this week compared to the rest of the year?
No, I mean, I think the biggest change is kind of the theme of this podcast so far, that different guys are going to have to step up who might not have typically been relied on throughout the year. I want to say this is a crazy stat, but I want to say that the last 4 years we are 12 and 0 in regionals. That I'm not sure that we've lost a game, but when you lose
Something
one
like
of
that, yeah.
those when you lose one of those first two games, you dig a little hole for yourself, and it just turns into you're fighting to keep your season alive. And at that point, it's back to Little League baseball. You're playing a doubleheader, you're playing a game seven if needed on Monday night. It's a guy who doesn't have a ton of innings pitched on the year. You're going to have to ride him at some point. So you have some new heroes step up, so to speak, and um, we'll see how it goes for this team. But I like that we're playing our best baseball going into the postseason.
Yeah, it was 2019. Tennessee lost in a regional at North Carolina. 2020, there was no season. 21, you guys didn't lose in regionals. 22, you didn't. 23, you didn't, and last year you didn't. So I think that stat is, three and 0. So 3 times 4 is
Yeah.
12. There we go, math. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So I mean, obviously, this team, this program knows, how to play, how to win at this stage of the calendar. Um, Guys stepping up. Brandon Arvinson's not like it wasn't like the guy that pitched for Texas the other day that had like 7 appearances on the season and 6 innings. By the way, he pitched at Walter State last year too. Um, Brandon Arvinson's been a guy for Tennessee, but he emerged. I mean, he had a career day in the backstory with Slosh Nagel signing with Texas, leaving, starting at A&M, all that. That's just kind of cherry on top. But goes 5 innings and a third, 85 pitches, phenomenal outing, and so having him be where he is now, seeing where AJ Russell continues to progress, this bullpen's getting deeper. Nate Snead was awesome against Texas. Another huge takeaway for me was, hey, this bullpen looks a whole lot better now than what it did a week, and a half ago. But Brandon Arvinson, the ability, the versatility of him and AJ Russell, it just gives Frank Anderson and Tony Vitello so many different options for a regional type weekend.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me too is you've got um, outside of Doyle, who's been a workhorse the whole year, most of your power arms, your arms that you're relying on for a lot of your innings are righties that throw the ball pretty hard. And then you've got Loy who comes in as a, kind of a change of speed. But to add Arvidsson to that, and then also to add the length that he showed you, not just the performance, but how long he was able to go in the game. I mean, that's a massive weapon going into postseason play, being able to throw confidently throw a lefty out there for he could give you one big out, or he just showed you he could give you 5+ innings or whatever that outing was. So that was maybe the most important part of this week for me.
Is the mindset in postseason in general, not just regionals, just kind of like, okay, Tony's going to name a starter, go out there and pitch, and then regroup. Like in 2022, you had 4 starters. You know that's nice. In 23, you had your 3. 24, it took a little while, but you got your plan. I mean, Xander emerged on day 3, Beam, and then you had you had Stom and DeCozy, so like you had your plan. This year, it's been Doyle, Phillips, and then it's been kind of a question mark for Game 3. Tegan Coons, AJ Russell a little bit, Arvidsson earlier in the year. I think for like this regional, it sounds like, at least from Tuesday's media appearance, Tony's going to start Liam Doyle and then start Marcus on Saturday. And then for me, it's kind of all hands on deck. Say Arvidsson hasn't been used. Maybe Arvidsson gets that start, or maybe you got to save somebody for a potential Monday game or whatever. Kind of talk me through the pitching mindset, from a catcher, from a coach perspective, in terms of how you go about this regional weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Sometimes you got a pesky, scrappy team that comes out there and maybe they don't tear the cover off the ball, but they wear out one of your starters, and all of a sudden he doesn't have his best stuff, and it's win or go home. So you put somebody else out there that you feel better about. Well, now that it's the postseason, maybe that guy who didn't have his best stuff on Friday or Saturday is then available to come in and close a game later in the weekend on a Sunday or Monday. So all that to say, there's going to be a plan that the coaches put together, and inevitably it's most likely not going to go to plan. So and that's not a bad thing. It just means that guys got to be ready to go, whether it's their traditional roles or whether it's something that they haven't been asked to do throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, on Tuesday, Tony said you got to embrace the chaos, because it's going to be very chaotic here in regional play. It's already been chaotic throughout the season, but certainly here in postseason. So there's been some talk, amongst the fans and everything about, what the pitching, the starting rotation this weekend should look like. Should it be Marcus on Friday, Liam on Saturday, Liam on Friday, Marcus on Saturday, whatever? I would say this, if for some reason you are playing on a Monday and you needed an inning or two, kind of like that Auburn series from Liam Doyle, you start him on Friday, get him a couple of days of rest, he can maybe come in and give you 15 to 20 pitches, 3 outs or whatever. I think that's a really, really good option to have, worst case scenario.
100%. I know, he's just as far as mindset, Liam reminds me a lot of a Chad Dallas or somebody like that who's really he's a talented arm, but more than that, he's just down to do whatever the team needs to help win. So he would actually probably be going up to ask for the ball if there was any action on Monday. So
Andrew Fisher, there's been 59 regular season or 59 games so far this season, I think. Andrew Fisher has reached base safely in all 59. I mean, how incredible is that? How tough is that? I mean, most of those he's had hits, but walking, I think he is tied for the league lead with like 56 walks in the regular season. I mean, that's just one of those stats where it's just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I think the ridiculous thing is a lot of times when a guy's got a lot of power, you think, all right, he's probably got a decent amount of swing and miss too. But the quality of his at-bats outside of just the home runs has been unbelievable. He's walking way more than he strikes out, and really walks and home runs. If you're trying to be a professional prospect, that's a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Looking at this lineup, Tennessee's lineup has become more and more deep. I started to see it against Vanderbilt a little bit. The results weren't there. Fayetteville, I thought they hit the ball really well. And then, of course, in Hoover, man, they just crushed the ball, excluding that Vanderbilt game. But what I was really impressed with was the bottom of the order. I don't have it in front of me, but I think Levi Clark, Cannon Peebles, Manny Marin combined to go like 10 for 32, so hitting over 300. Reese had a good hitting weekend. Dean had a good hitting week in Hoover. And then Gavin came back around as well. So really, like, there wasn't a weak link in the lineup at Hoover. And I know that was just 3 games, or really 2 games, because the third one nobody hit well. But, like, the lineup is becoming more rounded. It's becoming deeper. And again, I think it's happening right at the right time, because you're heading into, do or die situation.
Yeah, and we talked about it earlier when Bargo started slow, or when Levi had a little lull there in the middle of the season. We talked about how this stuff goes in cycles, and when it was, high pressure situation, when it was time to when your season's on the line, that those guys were going to come around and be ready to go. So I had no doubt that Levi was going to come back around and have the success that he's having right now. And it's also important too. You've got, in my opinion, having Jay Abernathy, whether he's starting or coming off the bench in the postseason, that's a massive weapon. Not only because of his speed, but just other things he can do. Situational hitting. He can lay down a bunt. He can go play a stellar defense. So that's a massive weapon to have.
Having Jay off the bench available to play defense or run or whatever, having Blake Grimmer, a bat that you kind of like a lot towards the end of the season, having Ariel to come in and play short or second or third. I mean, you're right. I mean, you were in that role. You came in and caught the last couple innings sometimes. I mean, having these options late in games, I mean, you watch Major League Baseball, and especially specifically if you have a team and you watch a team over and over and over, like you see these roles. You see this guy come in, late inning sub and all that. That's what good teams are made of, and Tennessee certainly has a lot of options, which is good for Tony late in games. How great was it to see your boy Cannon Peebles named to the All-SEC tournament team?
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think the biggest thing with him is he's continuing to just grind back there behind the plate, and he's doing a great job leading the staff. But offensively, it just looks like he's a million times more comfortable up there. He's not trying to do too much when at times last year you could argue that he was. He really just looks focused on, hey, how can I use this at bat to help my team win? And if I'm excited to see him carry that mindset through the postseason, and he'll be pretty successful here.
Did you know that he threw out the most base runners in the SEC this year?
I did not know that.
It's pretty cool, right? I mean, he really came on towards the end of the season. I mean, there were a couple of weekend series where he threw out, 2, 3, 4 base runners or whatever. I think he threw out in the regular season 19, and that led that was the most in the SEC. And I think Stone, granted a lot of this is midweek, but I think Stone threw out 9, and that was tied for 4th, which is pretty good.
Yeah, little catcher love right there.
Yeah, there you go. All right, I don't expect you to be an expert on all these teams in the regional, but I know you've looked at them a little bit. What do you like about the draw? Is there anything about these teams that are worrisome? What's going to be challenging about Miami of Ohio and or Wake Forest and Cincinnati?
I mean, you're going to get everybody's best punch this time of year. But in postseason baseball, that's the truth, anyways. But especially just who the reputation that our program has built for itself, you're going to get people want to beat you. People want to come to your place and have the chance to take you down. So if you think that there's going to be an easy, let's just slide past the 1-4 game, I think you're pretty sorely mistaken. Most every postseason baseball game is going to be a war.
How challenging are those 1-4 games? Because you got a team that had to play their way in for the most part, right? Win their conference tournament. They get in there. They're usually, in the day and age of the transfer portal, they're usually very veteran-led. Okay, got a lot of seniors. Evansville was like that last year as well. How dangerous are those teams?
Yeah, there's different styles, right? I mean, one team could have gotten there on the back of a stud pitcher, and they roll him out there on Friday night, and all of a sudden you're in a tight game. Or another team, it could just be they're really solid all around. They play the game the right way. They don't beat themselves. So if you don't come out and flex your muscles a little bit and let them hang around, the longer they hang around, the more energy they get, and then it can snowball on you. And it's not always equitable. I'm sure there's 4 seeds who are lesser than some of the other 4 seeds, and it's tough to know that when you see this field put out there. But again, any team that has won their conference has gone through a gauntlet, and it's going to be a tough test.
I know I've asked you this earlier in the year whenever Tennessee was going through some home issues in certain terms of winning games at home. But again, you can't quantify playing a home regional, right? I mean, you told me sleeping in your own bed. If there's a weather delay, you get to go into the clubhouse. A couple weeks ago when there was a weather delay, Vanderbilt was sitting in the dugout, and you couldn't even see it was raining so hard, but they were sitting in the dugout, right? I mean, you can't, if you're on the road, you're hiding under the bleachers. I mean, how big of a deal is it to play baseball at your home park, even though, the winds really haven't been there as as many as normal years would be in that stadium.
Yeah, I think it just helps remind you that this is just another baseball game. The stakes are higher and your season's on the line, sure, but you're in the place where you've been working together as a team since last August. You're in front of your home fans. You're just protecting your turf, and yeah, I don't know. The home record this year is what it is, but I don't think there's anything too much to read into that. I think that this team is excited to be at home and protect their turf.
Never want to look ahead. You're in that dugout, you're in that staff, you can't. But you're in my job, and now you're out of it. You can do it too a little bit, but the potential, okay, you got to handle business, and Arkansas's got to handle business too, but the potential of a super in Fayetteville, does that get your juices flowing a little bit?
Yeah, that for sure. That's for people like me and you to sit here and talk about. I'm confident that has not been brought up one time in the facility this week. They're focused on Miami of Ohio first and foremost.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting for me and you to talk about. But as we know with baseball in general, with postseason baseball in general, and then especially college postseason baseball, it's we've come to expect the unexpected. So there's a whole lot of baseball to be played between now and then, but no doubt it's an exciting one to look forward to.
And I mean, I know they dropped the series, but I mean, played much better. Played a pretty good brand of baseball in Fayetteville. I know the pitching wasn't where you want it to be, but something to kind of build on there. Where Tennessee's not won a whole lot of games here lately, if that comes to fruition. Charlie, what are you gonna be doing this weekend, man? First time in a long time. You're not gonna be playing in a regional, so what's the setup gonna be like? Are you coming to the ballpark? Are you gonna be at home? Kind of dual TV watching the squeeze. I mean, what's your setup gonna be?
Yeah, I'm considering going up there, considering just going like 4+ TV mode and watching all the different games. I mean, I've got they make you get this stupid ESPN Plus subscription to watch all the games. So this is
welcome to everybody else's life. Okay.
Yeah.
The struggle is real.
Yeah. This is kind of when it pays off though. I mean, if I've got it, I might as well throw on all the action that's going on around the country.
Yep. No doubt. Charlie Taylor, he's played in several regionals for the University of Tennessee, and now he'll be watching Tennessee take a part of the Knoxville Regional this weekend against Miami, Ohio, and then potentially Cincinnati and or Wake Forest the rest of the weekend. Charlie, as always, man, thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Go Vols.
All right, good show. Yeah, good show. Good stuff there from Joe Healy of D1 Baseball. Really in-depth analysis of the Knoxville Regional and what he thought Tennessee's chances were heading into NCAA postseason play. Good stuff there from Charlie Taylor. His insights, former Tennessee catcher, guy that's been on a lot of postseason wins. Stopping by the show, and appreciate you guys for being here. It's going to be a fun weekend. Tennessee, the number 14 overall national seed, playing host to Cincinnati, Wake Forest, Miami of Ohio in the Knoxville Regional. You win this one, you will take on the winner of the Fayetteville Regional with Arkansas, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if we're traveling to Fayetteville, if the season's over, if Tennessee's hosting a super regional. That could be fun as well. We know about the Hogs postseason struggles at home, so that's something to keep in mind with as well. But it's fun time. It's great that Tennessee played some good baseball down in Hoover, getting those wins over Alabama and Texas. Good that they found some mojo a little bit. Good that we saw some good appearances from Brandon Arvidsson, A.J. Russell. Good that we saw the offense doing what it did. So really, really looking forward to seeing what Tennessee does this weekend in the Knoxville Regional. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We're going to be over there at the stadium all weekend long, bring you coverage as we always do at Volquest.com. Check out the piece that I caught up with Griffin Merritt earlier this week. 5 intriguing storylines that's out there as well. We'll have a preview coming out tomorrow morning. Of course, this is the Porch, and we'll have 4 takes, comments from Tony Vitello, players, and everything else you can possibly need from the Knoxville Regional play this weekend over at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Big shout out to our friends over at Spivey, King and Spivey LLP. You got a problem, let them find a solution for you. T&N Trial Lawyers. Appreciate them for being a sponsor and partner here at the Porch this season. And hopefully we'll have another one to do next week, courtesy of our friends over at Spivey, King and Spivey LLP. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you at the field. This is the Porch of Volquest.com Baseball Podcast.